and I do apologize. Again, I'm sitting in a working from home in a rather small office, so the excitement of what you see I scan is probably not that big, but at least you get an understanding of how it works and what it looks like. So I'm just going to find my Perspective software. So I hope everybody can see this one. So this is basically the interface to the Trimble Perspective software, and it starts basically by creating a new project. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to click Add, and we'll see if this will work. And I can just call that Home 2. With the T10 tablet, you have that capability to take a photo and just put it in as a front page, but that's not necessarily important. We're creating a project, and we should now be connected to the scanner. So this is basically the interface. On the top here, you have the hamburger menu and the information of the project. Then you have the scanner information that you're connected, the Wi-Fi range, and it says something about the power level there. You can click on any of this and you get off the specification. So whether you're connected to a 5 gigahertz network or 2.4 gigahertz network, the battery capacity and also the storage, and it says so many scans you have the capability to do based on the current SD cards that are in there. On the left side in general is everything that goes on showing and kind of displaying your point cloud as they go along. And then on the right side, we have a little bit more tools. So here you can see, whether you have a good bad registration, the annotation, the measurements, and so on and so on. And basically at the top there, you have a limiter, so you can basically limit the elevation of the scan if you want to see it from a side view, and so on and so on. This can also be locked. And then at the bottom is really where you control the scan element of what you're doing itself. Now, before we go in and scan, I just want to go in here. You have some submenus. There's some generic settings functions here, and these are just things like if you want to use a mouse, your language, the scan display filter. This says something about if you have 200, 300, 400 scans in your job and you're running into an issue, you have a filter that basically will display only the 5 closest stations to where you currently are, or whatever number you set there. So it kind of takes away a lot of scans, so it's easier to see and troubleshoot some of the data that you potentially have. Units, that is units for what you want to do. Images, as I said, this is where you can turn the panoramic creation to on and off. We would normally recommend you simply to have that off per default, and then as part of your export at the end, you can do it there. But if that's turned on, basically every time you take photos, every time you do, the software will try to also process the panorama and the automatic colorization of the point clouds as it go along. And last one is basically where we were, the scan side of it. Now, back to the side, this is really where you control it. So down here is where you're adding your labels. So whether, as I say, room 1, room 2, you just add them in. And here is where you control which station you want to register to. So by default, it's registered to last. So if I go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, it will just register to last. But if you, for example, I used the example, you go down a corridor, you go out of room and down a corridor, you might want to go back again and keep going the other way of the corridor. And for doing that, you can basically control which station you want to connect itself to. So that's where you're doing that. And then underneath here is where you control the scan parameters of what you want to do. It's all based on time, but then if you want to see what's underneath the various time, and the times here is really, they really rounded up. So when it's 2 minutes, it's actually 1 minute 34 seconds, and that's included the 10, 15 to 20, 25 seconds calibration times that it does in the beginning. So the scan time itself is probably roughly just over a minute. So you can see here what the resolution settings are, and we have a 2 minute, we have a 4 minute, And basically on the 4-minute and 7-minute, you also have the capability to choose the standard or the high sensitivity for what you want to do. And whether you want images, you turn them on, and then you have some settings to how you want to do the balancing of what you do. For this little demonstration, I will simply just take it to a 2 minutes side of things, and as we're ready to go, we'll see if my scanner is connected, and if we go. So now I'm clicking Start Scan, and I am very aware that none of you can actually see it, but behind me in the room I have a scanner. It's now doing its little dance where it goes through the calibration routine. The first one is always the longest one. But as I said, this is part of that 1 minute 34-second period of the complete scan side of it. So as soon as the initialization bit is over, the scanner will start scanning. Now, I know doing a webinar and sitting waiting for a scanner that you can't see is probably not the best, but bear with me here. So now we're actually into the scanning side of it. And as this goes through, and as soon as this is finished, there's a couple of things that will happen. As soon as this is done, the scanner will basically tell me that it's ready to be moved, and at that minute I can just move the scanner and instantly press scan for the next point. At the same time, this is happening in parallel, so it doesn't slow you down in any way. At the same time, it will start downloading the data from the scanner and into the software. So now we're done, and I will basically move it. I'm afraid I can't move it very long, but a little bit. That's it. I've moved it, and now I simply press Start Scanning, and the scanner starts. So I've already managed to download the first scan, and what the software will then do is kind of do an auto orientation on it, just as the data comes in, as it should. This is just a preview. We're not displaying all the points in the side of it, but this is where it now is. So here's the viewing of it, and as I said, here's the overview. I can go in and I can look at it in 3D. I can display the stations in various way or not. I can see it from side view if that's what I want to do. So here you can see the mess I'm sitting in and around. And if I want to back in 2D again, we just click it like that. If you go into this, you will get the side view of it. So here you can see. So as I say, this is not the most exciting place to to see. So this is the grayscale of it, and back here again. So we're just about to finish the second scan, and then the same process will go. As soon as it beeps, I will move the scanner, and it will download the data, and then it will start the process of the automatic registration. There we go. So I won't bore you with too many of these. I did one more, but now it's it's downloaded the second one, and it's now doing the automatic registration, and we'll try to match that up with the other scan. We can go in here and we can set that maybe to scan color. So there you can see we put it together. I'm just going to let the last one finish, and then we're going to have a quick look at some of the editing function. So first of all, if I go in here, it gives me some information on it, and this is also where I can control my registration sets and so on and so in terms of if I want to see it. If I go in this place, it will tell me a little bit about the events that gone, and it will also give me a snapshot of the error contribution that's in that. As I say, this is a peer-to-peer registration, and the final refinement is something you do later on. So we're just about to finish off the last one. At the same time, as I say, annotations is basically something like this. So I can go in here and I can say create a new, call it door. I can put a description. I can put photos in there, and I can click on it, and I say create annotation. That is now a part of my scan. So we can see the annotation sits here, and these are also coming in, as I say, into the field software. There we go. We're finishing the third one. I'm gonna halt it there, and we're gonna get that one to go. To load itself in. And this will then basically be the process that you go on in terms of registering, putting the data together. There we are. That's the third one done. Now, as I said here, if I wanted that registered to 1 instead of 3, I could have basically put and chosen it there. So instead of using last, which is the default, I could have said 2 to 1. I also said as part of my presentation, automatic registration isn't something that will always work. There will be a situation where this might be struggling. So we've tried to put in some functionality that lets you deal with some of this. So for example, if I just hold on it, I can go to the registration, and this basically takes you into an edit mode of where we are. So in this case, if I break that link now, we can see the scan is gone out. So the most important thing to fix the scan in Perspective is that you get the orientation correctly. So for example, if I, for whatever reason, go to scan in like this, and then I try to do register, it will most likely fail. This is a very small room I'm sitting in here, so it might actually be that it, but in most of the cases, it should fail for doing that. It kind of didn't really do it properly. So if it comes in any way, shape, or form, the best thing is really to just get your scan oriented in the right place. You don't have to go and try to overlap it. You can actually do it, but in many cases you can all do that, and then you say register, and it will then create or register it and create that link in order to get that. correctly, and there it registered, and you can go close, and it's basically built in. We'll do one last thing I just want to say. Sometimes to get, if you have specific, if you're operating areas, we have irregular shapes, it's not always that easy to see and how to do it. So we built in something we call the split view that basically gives you the capability to see the station that you want to register to, and you can pick 2 common points of what you want to do. So in this case, for example, I can click there, and maybe there and there. Doesn't have to be spot on, and then you can register, and the scanner should then do that same in order to get it to the right orientation for you and register it correctly. There we go. And that's a very, very brief, yeah, sorry, I also need to say, so at the end here is basically you can refine the project and you can finalize the export. So the refinement is basically now doing a least square adjustment on all the data for the refinement side of it. And it will then generate you a report. You can edit the layout of this, but it gives you a much more detailed report of the stations that you've done and the overlap and these type of things. Last but not least, I realized I'm running out of time. The finalize and export. So as I said here, if you're taking a lot of photos, you can choose to colorize it, and you can also choose to create high quality panoramas as part of it. And then you simply go here, you pick the format that you want to do, TZF, E57, PTX, and so on and so on, and then you export it out to that. That was a very very brief introduction to Trimble Perspective. As I say, I'm only have about 5 minutes again. I also just wanted to say very quickly that, of course, the X7 isn't the only scanner we do. We also have a couple of other scanners, such as the TX6 and TX8. They are bigger scanners, but they have very different scan performance factors in them. And then, of course, also the SX10, which, strictly speaking, isn't a scanner. It's a total station that has scan capabilities. But again, it has some unique feature and functionality for that. With that, I think I conclude on this presentation. I did say I'm more than happy to try to take some questions if there is anybody that have them. If also anybody have any other questions, feel free to of course email me or speak to Neil or anything like that in terms of that. Okay.
So, Ted, we do have just a couple of questions. If you can help us out. So, first one here is, how many scans can we store in one instance on the tablet?
So we haven't really had any test on some of them. Mostly we have done is about 870 scans. I believe that's most that we've that I've taken it through.
Okay. Also, a question around the servicing, Ted. So, the statement is, so it never needs servicing.
Yeah. Well, a service and calibration is two different things. A service can be a mechanical side of things. Calibration is the process of, which is normally something you have to send it back to a factory because of the tools needed to run it through that, to take the measurements and apply these datas, these deviation reports, all that kind of stuff into the laser scanners. That's the calibration process of it. A scanner might it's still a mechanical and electrical unit. It might still may need a repair or something like that, but that's part of what the calibration routine will dictate. If you can't pass a calibration routine, there might be something mechanically wrong with it.
Okay, and just a couple of questions from the same person here, Ted. So we've mentioned the data can be taken directly from the tablet. How much memory does the tablet have on board on the T10?
Oh, I have to look that up. I can't remember from the top of my head how much memory there is in the tablet, but I can. We are getting these questions written down, aren't we? 256 gigabytes, Kevin says. So that's probably right.
Excellent. And finally, we have, is the scanner self-leveling, which I think you covered. If you just want to run through that again, Ted.
The scanner is self-leveling, yes. As I said, currently, as long as it is within plus minus 5 degrees, we will level it to better than 3 arc seconds. The scanner can be tilted all the way up to 45 degrees, and we will still level it. The only thing we say that it won't be within plus minus within 3 arc seconds. So we even at 45 degrees, we actually can level it. But as I say, as part of the adjustment process, so if you have multiple scans that you just set up normally and they straight and plus minus 5 degrees quite a bit, and you suddenly have one that you need to tilt a bit, we can really quite well adjust that one to it. So that's how that works. We are actually looking at whether we can do it or to do within the specification even more, but that's something we currently are looking at.
Okay. All right, we do have a lot of other questions. Unfortunately, we're close to the end of our slot here, so we will take a note of those questions. Any that we haven't managed to answer today, we will answer via email, or we will give people a call.
Yeah, I see them. So very quickly, because here it says, is there a need to use targets now with the IMU or not? No, you don't necessarily have to use targets, but this is more, whether you want them and stuff like that. So it's a bit how people work and how them to do this. So
pending. And we will, as I say, be in touch with any of you that have answered questions. Okay, and again, thank you for your time, everybody. And we will leave it there. We have the third in the series. If you have signed up for either the first or second, you'll receive an email inviting you to that third webinar. We'll be looking more at the Trimble Field Link solution for the X7. Thank you again, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you all soon.